Letter 22 starts off by discussing the patient's new girlfriend. My dear Wormwood, so your man is in love, and in the worst kind he could possibly have fallen into, and with a girl who does not even appear in the reports you sent me. You may be interested to learn that the little misunderstanding with the secret police which you tried to raise about some unguarded expressions in one of my letters has been tidied over. If you are reckoning on that to secure my good offices, you will find yourself mistaken. You shall pay for that as well as for your other blunders. Meanwhile, I enclose a little booklet, just issued, on the new House of Correction for Incompetent Tempters. It is profusely illustrated, and you will not find a dull page in it. Here he addresses that the patient has fallen in love with a Christian girl, and he also addresses what he hinted at in the last letter, in that Wormwood did end up reporting Screwtape to the authorities for some of Screwtape's theories on love, and Screwtape says, sorry, but I got out of that trouble. I'm not in trouble, but now I am watching you, Wormwood, and you might find yourself in trouble and being punished very soon because you are a junior tempter and you have not been successful in tempting your patient. And in fact, here's a little booklet enclosed with this letter called House of Correction for Incompetent Tempters. So he's doing like a little dig there at Wormwood. I've looked at this girl's dossier and am horrified at what I find. Not only a Christian, but such a Christian. A vile, sneaking, simpering, demure, monosyllabic, mouse-like, watery, insignificant, virginal bread and butter miss. The little brute. She makes me vomit. So Screwtape hates, he is repulsed by the patient's new girlfriend because she is a strong believer and she seems like a really nice person and all of these other traits, and it just makes him sick. She stinks and scalds through the very pages of the dossier. It drives me mad the way the world has worsened. We'd have had her to the arena in the old days. That's her sort is made for. Not that she'd do much good there either. A two-faced little cheat, I know the sort, who looks as if she'd faint at the sight of blood and then dies with a smile. A cheat every way. Looks as if butter wouldn't melt in her mouth and yet has a satirical wit. The sort of creature who'd find me funny. Filthy, insipid little prude. And yet ready to fall into this Bobby's arms like any other breeding animal. Why doesn't the enemy blast her for it if he's so moonstruck by virginity, instead of looking on there, grinning? He's a hedonist at heart. Hedonist is someone who lives for pleasure. All those fasts and vigils and stakes and crosses are only a facade, or only like foam on the seashore. Out at sea, out in his sea, there is pleasure and more pleasure. He makes no secret of it. At his right hand are pleasures forevermore. That is a reference to Psalm 16:11, which reads, "You make known to me the path of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand." Ugh, I don't think he has the least inkling of that high and austere mystery to which we rise in the miserific vision. He's vulgar, Wormwood. He has a boring, basic mind. He has filled his world full of pleasures. There are things for humans to do all day long without his minding in the least. Sleeping, washing, eating, drinking, making love, playing, praying, and working. Everything has to be twisted before it's any use to us. We fight under cruel disadvantages. Right? Oh my gosh, God's so terrible. He has created so many amazing things for humans to do, and they're not punishments. Oh man, right? The enemy, God, is the worst. And again, we have this idea of pleasure, which an earlier letter was devoted to, right? That pleasure, the way God intended it, is not bad, right? It becomes sinful when we twist it, because we live in a fallen world. But, right, God has created so much for us out there. Nothing is naturally on our side. Not that it excuses you. I'd settle with you presently. You have always hated me and been insolent when you dared. Then, of course, he gets to know this woman's family and whole circle. Could you not see that the very house she lives in is one that he ought never to have entered? The whole place reeks of that deadly odor. Okay, in other words, God's love. So the girl who the patient is dating, she comes from a strong Christian home. And here Screwtape tells Wormwood, you never should have even let her walk in the door of that home, right? The whole place reeks of that deadly odor. The very gardener, though he has only been there 5 years, is beginning to acquire it. Even guests, after a weekend visit, carry some of the smell away with them. The dog and the cat are tainted with it, and the house full of the impenetrable mystery. The impenetrable mystery is God's love. We are certain it is a matter of first principles that each member of the family must in some way be making capital out of the others, but we can't find out how. They guard as jealously as the enemy himself the secret of what really lies behind this pretense of disinterested love. The whole house and garden is one vast obscenity. It bears a sickening resemblance to the description one human writer made of heaven. The religions where there is only life, and therefore all that is not music is silence. Music and silence. How I detest them both. How thankful we should be that ever since our father entered hell, though longer ago than humans, reckoning in light years, could express, no square inch of the infernal space and no moment of infernal time has been surrendered to either of those abominable forces. But all has been occupied by noise. Noise, the grand dynamism, the audible expression of all that is exultant, ruthless, and virile. Noise which alone defends us from the silly qualms, despairing scruples, and impossible desires. So here, Screwtape says that music and silence, how I detest them both. I mean, music is amazing, right? Like worship music to the Lord. Music is hard to explain. It can be very powerful to us as humans, and so can silence, right? When you get rid of everything else and there's just silence, right? That's such a great time to meditate and pray into the Lord and really be thinking through like different journaling, thinking through decisions in your life and so on and so forth. And so the demons hate both music and silence, but what they do love is noise. And just think about your life when your life becomes too noisy, when there's too much going on, there's too many distractions going on, you lose your focus of what's important. And so the demons thrive off of noise. We will make the whole universe a noise in the end. We have already made great strides in this direction as regards the earth. The melodies and silences of heaven will be shouted down in the end. But I admit we are not yet loud enough or anything like it. Research is in progress. Meanwhile, you, disgusting little... Here the manuscript breaks off and is resumed in a different hand. In the heat of composition, I find that I have inadvertently allowed myself to assume the form of a large centipede. Apparently, Screwtape got so riled up and angry in the middle of his letter/rant to Wormwood that he changed his whole body into a centipede. And so now his secretary is having to write out the rest of the letter for him. I'm accordingly dictating the rest to my secretary. Now that the transformation is complete, I recognize it as a periodical phenomenon. Some rumor of it has reached the humans, and a distorted account of it appears in the poet Milton, with the ridiculous addition that such changes of shape are punishment imposed on us by the enemy. That is in regards to John Milton's epic poem Paradise Lost, in which the demons change into snakes. A more modern writer, someone with a name like Psh, has, however, grasped the truth. Transformation proceeds from within. It is a glorious manifestation of that life force which our Father would worship if he worshipped anything but himself. In my present form, I feel even more anxious to see you, to unite you to myself in an indissoluble embrace. Signed, Toadpipe, for his abysmal sublimity under Secretary Screwtape. So this is an interesting and kind of random last paragraph here where Screwtape turns himself into a centipede accidentally. So it lets us know that demons can like shapeshift, quote unquote, in a way. They can take on the form of their emotions. And Screwtape says, well, Satan would be really proud of us for this ability if he was able to feel pride towards anything other than himself. And so you get that in this last part. And so then, okay, if we take it a step further and try to think about why would C.S. Lewis insert this into his letters, I'm not quite sure. Maybe he's trying to state something about sin. Is sin self-generated? Right. Does Screwtape become an ugly monster because of like the ugliness that he is feeling inside of him at that time? And I think maybe it's also a reminder that, right, God isn't directly responsible for sin, right? The sinner is. And can we become sometimes our sin, not like Screwtape does, but just in the sense of that it can take over our life? Something to think about, I think.